Hello and welcome to the Doctor's Corner. I'm your host as always, Dr. Mark Pinsky, and today we continue our age and weight management series. I'm privileged today to have as my guest Dr. Craig Primack, who is the president of the Obesity Medicine Association. Craig and his partner have co-authored a book called Chasing Diets. You can get it on Amazon.com. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. Craig and I have now known each other for almost 2 years, believe it or not. And I am privileged to bring to you today Dr. Craig Primack. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dr. Pinsky. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's get started. You and I have talked about all of these topics before, and we're so familiar with one another and what we want to talk about. We'll keep this thing flowing pretty quickly. So tell me, what is the reason you believe that a full comprehensive program is necessary in order for people to really achieve weight loss?
So let's use an analogy. The chair is our analogy. So if you sit in a chair and you balance on one leg, and we'll call it stress comes into the system, and you're balancing on the one leg and someone shakes your chair, you're going to fall over. So let's just say that's just nutrition or diet. If you start using the second leg, you add exercise to it, you're a little more stable. You put behavior as your third leg, a little more stable. And if you add anti-obesity medications as your fourth leg, your chair is really stable. And when the storm comes, you're going to do really well. And if you put under that, long-term monitoring and such, I think you get a really stable system and people tend to do really better. And I think science proves that out also.
Right. So going along in that same venue, why do you think it's important to have physicians involved? I mean, you could just have all these other people in all these other clinics, but why is it important to have a doctor?
As physicians, we're trained to use medications, and a piece of this program is medications. And the brain has very particular things that it does, and this is evolutionary. Since the beginning of time, when there wasn't food around, we'll say there was a famine, two of the hormones that are very commonly talked about, one is called leptin and the other is called ghrelin. Leptin we want to be high, and ghrelin we want to be low. And when you lose weight, they tend to do this. So the fullness one goes down and the hunger one goes up. And the medicines we use work on a part of the brain called the hypothalamus to really counteract these signals. The signals are kind of still there, but they're not being heard or sensed by the brain. And that's really the key behind that.
Right. So why do you think people have such difficulty losing weight? And probably more importantly, we can get people to lose weight, but why do they have such a difficult time sustaining that weight loss?
Think of it as, again, that survival mechanism. As your weight went down, the body started saying, I'm going to slow the metabolism down and I'm going to be more hungry. So when there's times of famine, you're going to do better than somebody else. And our body really doesn't know the difference between hunger or when we're not eating and famine and dieting. And what we want to really do is have the body think everything is happy and going well, and we're losing weight. And when you put those four pieces together, it helps the body achieve a new set point.
Makes sense. So let me ask you this. How many pounds is acceptable for weight loss per week?
So that's another benefit of seeing a physician. So what we've always taught is on your own, probably a pound, maybe 2 pounds maximum per week. When you're being seen by a physician, it can be much, much more than that. As long as you're getting in kind of your base nutrition, an amount of protein, some fat, some vitamins, some water. And if you do that and you're able to exercise amount and your metabolism lets you, you can lose upwards of 4 or 5 pounds in an average week, depending where you're starting from and how aggressive you are in your diet. And then we can also use techniques that can be really much more aggressive than you can do on your own.
Right. So let's specifically talk about, your weight loss program, Your Better Self, which has obviously been adopted by Pinsky Weight Loss, has been hugely successful. We're so proud of it and so proud to have partnered with you in this incredible endeavor. What makes Your Better Self different than what's out there now?
So my business partner and I, we started weight loss back in 2006, kind of the beginning of what we'll call obesity medicine. And we put together techniques that we've learned throughout the years on how to do these four pieces, each of them kind of to the maximum. And so nutrition, we use a lot of meal replacements, shakes to help you keep your appetite down and give you exact calories that you need, some exercise counseling, behavior techniques that we use through a video series, and then last but not least, seeing you on a regular basis for accountability with the medications.
Right. Let's break those components down now. Let's talk specifically about the shakes. And I know you use a whole array of shakes. We have stayed specifically with one brand of the shake that you're using, and that's from a company called Health One. So you tell me about those particular shakes and why those shakes are so good.
I think that's a great question. And so Health One has been formulated to be what we call a complete or full meal replacement. You can take these shakes and a jug of water and go up to the moon and live very happily. So it's giving you all the protein, a little bit of carbohydrate, a little bit of fat, vitamins, and other micronutrients that you need for long-term survival. So back in the 70s, that they started to treat people for long-term, we'll call it stomach conditions, where they weren't able to eat regular food, we figured out exactly what you need to support your body long-term. All we did with that is decrease the calories and help support you. These are techniques and meal replacements that you can't just buy in the grocery store. If you were to go into Costco, or if you go into your grocery store and buy one of the meal replacements available there, you can skip one meal, sometimes a second meal a day occasionally, but they aren't designed to be your sole source of nutrition. And when you use them as your sole source of nutrition, that's when we can get really aggressive and successful weight loss.
Right. I think that's also the key. You know, one of the things that we've learned by using the shakes is that they really are a complete source of nutrition. And as a result, people really do save a lot of money because they're not having to take other supplementation. They don't have to take other vitamin sources. It obviously cuts down on the cost of food that they would have to buy. And of course, you know, you and I have adopted a program where we're pretty flexible in what we do and how we do it. There's a complete replacement program. There's replacements so that maybe you have 3 or 4 shakes a day or 1 or 2 meals. We like to cater it to the patient and what the patient's desires are. And so let's kind of go a little bit further, go away from the shakes now. Let's talk about the lean and green part of the program, which I think is brilliant. And Craig has created this with his partner. I think it's just absolutely surely brilliant. Go ahead, talk about that, Craig.
So some people will start with the full meal replacement. Others will choose because of social reasons, because of just saying, I want to sit down and have a meal, that I want to start with a lean and green meal. Sometimes we'll say plants and protein. But basically, we're looking for about a 4-ounce serving of protein. So if you think of your hand, the palm of your hand and the thickness of your hand, and some green vegetables. And I usually say stay away from 3 big things. Stay away from corn, potatoes, and beans. And if you think of it that way, most things are on your list. And, you can be very specific when you give instructions on what people should have and what they shouldn't have. But if you think it as a good protein and vegetables, along with some meal replacement throughout the day, people tend to do really, really well. We know when you use a planned meal like this, you may know on Sunday, what I'm eating Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That's where we tend to go and do really well. If you come home from work, it's 5:30, 6:30 at night, and you said, I don't know what I'm eating yet today, we tend to just not, we're already too hungry. We've been stressed out from the day. We don't tend to make as good choices. So when you have this planned meal in there, we tend to do much, much better.
And I firmly agree with that. And that's where people really do kind of shift and get off target. So I do encourage people to do that. I also encourage people to shift it a little bit. Sometimes do dinner, sometimes do lunch. And what are we trying to do? We are trying to educate people on what their plate should look like, what their portion sizes should look like. But what I love about this, Craig, and it's just universally accepted, how simple it really is, right? We don't have people count points and we don't people count calories in general, and within a couple of weeks people really have a great idea of what they're supposed to be doing, and now we just kind of fill in the gaps to where they're supposed to be, right? Let's talk a little bit about the educational part that you and I have really grown to. I've grown to love this part of the program because not too many people emphasize education. And talk a little bit about how you may have come up with this and why you came up with it. I think that will help.
So we've worked with several dietitians and psychologists over the years to develop a really good educational series. If you think about it, we all think we know what to do, but it kind of goes through your day when there's stresses, and we're all going to have stress, when we're not sleeping, when there's holiday eating, when there's just eating out with friends. How do I attack that? What do I think about? What do I do? And we put you in certain situations. One of the most common, or a couple of the most common reasons people do tend to fall off their diet is something we call emotional eating. There's really three components of emotional eating: stress eating, which is the most common by far, energy eating. So as our energy starts to fall at the end of the day, we use carbohydrates usually to pick up our energy, or something we call avoidant eating. Avoidant eating can be kind of an all or none philosophy. I'm all the way on my diet. I say I'm never going to eat that thing again, and then I fall off that diet, and then we overeat Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we get back on Monday. Or the other part is emotionally, we say, I don't have to deal with whatever the stressor is. And we use food to kind of push those feelings down. It's figuratively, but those things do come into our whole persona. Food can be used really as a drug like this. And this is techniques that have been proven through psychology and long-term dietitian strategies to be able to overcome these things.
Correct. So everybody who joins the program basically gets either an app for their phone or a link to put on their computer, whichever they prefer. And, the lectures are about 15, 20 minutes long, and there's about 20, 25 classes, and they all focus. And of course, now this is the time of the year, holiday time, when everybody really needs to hone in. I've got everybody kind of zoned in, and everybody's ready to go for Christmas Day and beyond, New Year's and what have you. So I think that component and that support structure is incredibly helpful. I know that you've created another support structure, which we have also now adopted, known as your Facebook page. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that is that support network that comes from within.
There's so many different pieces that people can take advantage of in a comprehensive program that you're putting on here. Obviously, seeing you in the clinic, a one-on-one, you're like the coach. You give some counseling, we work on strategies, and then you go home. But there's so much more of our lives that aren't going to happen in the office. And so with the classes, with continuous bouncing off ideas through the Facebook group, through other people who are going through the program and the things that they're going through, everyone can kind of learn as a group. It's almost what we do in medicine, which is this see one, do one, teach one thing. And so we're working on all those different techniques.
Yeah, one of the great things that has happened through the patients themselves is the creation of amazing recipes. One of the things we didn't talk about with the shakes is how really flexible they are. You can heat these shakes. I have patients who really look forward to that chocolate shake, but they make hot chocolate out of it. I have people who make soup out of their shakes. So we have come to really develop this incredible creativity, not really from me, right? Or not necessarily from you, but these are people who are just really creative and good about helping each other develop a pattern of how to survive, how to get through the life, and how to thrive through the life. So it's been really an exciting venture for me. Let's talk about one of the things I know that's so passionate for you, that you probably know more about this than anybody I know. Not probably, I think you definitely do. It's prescription medications for the use of weight loss. I think there's some stigmata out there, and before I met you, I'm sort of embarrassed to say, I had the same stigmata, and I've sort of let all of that now go, and I've seen the incredible benefits by using medications. So let's talk a little bit about medications, where you think they come into play, and what you think the benefits of those are.
So let's first start by saying, why use a medication? If we really start to think about this, weight is a disease. And any other chronic disease, whether it be blood pressure or high cholesterol or such, we think about using medications for, because they help the disease. And when we've struggled, and most people by the time they get to see you or I have struggled many, many times with their weight, they're able to lose some weight, but then it comes back on. They're able to lose some more weight, it comes back on, and so forth. Or sometimes not able to lose weight at all. That's because this brain is counteracting what we're trying to do. And all of the medicines we use, some of them have been out for a long time. Medicines like phentermine and ones like that have been out since 1959. They have stood the test of time. And then we come into kind of the new generation of medications that started in 2012, like Qsymia and Belviq, and even through 2015 with Saxenda and Contrave. All of these medicines are really doing this. We say we should eat less calories, and these medicines help the brain say, okay, you're eating less. You're not going to be extra hungry by eating less. And there is really no reason, or we shouldn't think of willpower as the way to overcome our diets. Willpower, as far as we're concerned, is like a bank account. And you have a certain amount of money in your bank account. And if you keep spending your willpower each day because I'm hungry, pretty soon your willpower, your money runs out, so to speak. And these medicines take willpower out of it. They just decrease the set point of the brain and where the weight should be in the body. And so there isn't any one medicine that's perfect for everybody. There are different indications and different reasons to use one, but that's kind of what you and I have been working on over the last couple of years, and me since 2006, is trying to find the perfect medicine for each person. We don't always get it right first try, but there is usually something that we can use in everybody who desires to use one. As you know, we don't force anyone to use medicines, but it is a wonderful tool. And to think really that we should just do this without medicines being a chronic disease. If this was really just the fact that we needed to eat less and move more, we wouldn't have this conversation. It isn't that. It is the fact that people who struggle with their weight do not get as full on the foods that they eat, and they're not full as long. And these medicines are helping combat that.
Right. And one of the other things that's a very nice summary of all that, but there's one thing that you taught me that I never, ever thought I would ever hear. And that some of these medications can be used in conjunction with one another. It's not necessarily a one or none response. And so I do have some patients, Craig and I actually share some patients. They're doing great, by the way. I feel responsible now, Craig, because under your tutelage they did awesome, and now they're under my tutelage, and I have to literally take them and do the same. But they're doing great. They are doing wonderful. But that's one of the things you taught me about how to stack the medications if we need to, and the indications to do that. Yet another benefit of having a physician involved in the program. There's two things we didn't mention, and I emphasize that on this show all the time, not necessarily when I talk about weight loss, just for overall health and wellness. One of the things that you and I talk about the program is water, and how important water is in weight loss. So give me a little snippet about your take about the importance of water in weight loss.
So there's been, interestingly enough, multiple studies showing that drinking water before a meal helps in weight loss. You're in Florida, I'm in Arizona. We're typically warm climates. And I don't think the body has a great sensor for thirst. And so sometimes when we're thirsty, our body reaches out for food just because it thinks it needs something. Anytime someone tells me, I really want something salty, to me, that more often means that they're actually not intaking enough water. And we typically will recommend at least 64 ounces a day. Some people actually significantly more. And you have ways that you counsel each of your patients. But I think most people using 64 as an absolute minimum and getting up to sometimes 100 plus ounces a day works really, really well for weight loss.
Right. So let me give you a little personal anecdote here, right? Because before you, I'm embarrassed as a sports medicine guy. I didn't say all these things, but truth be told, I didn't. So I have now adopted that, as you know, as my own. And I had this big hunger issue, as you know, and I also had a big salt craving issue, as you know. And so taking in literally 80 ounces of water for me based on my body weight and based upon my activity, you're right, it could be 100, it could be 110, 120 ounces of water that day, has made all the world of difference in terms of my overall cravings, which is enormous. But importantly also, one of the things that I tell patients, you can't really lose fat unless you have water, because the beginning step stage of lipolysis is hydrolysis. And so the importance of water, I don't think could be understated. One of the other things we talked about many times is the importance of fiber in this overall program. And so we do that too, and we encourage that as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, one of your last favorite topics is sleep. All right, so talk to me just a snippet about the importance of sleep in overall weight loss.
Dr. Pinsky, you're speaking my language. So sleep is one of the things I talk about with every single patient. Everyone's always heard diet, exercise, diet, exercise. That's the way to lose weight. And as you and I have been talking now for a while, I think sleep has to come first. Then you diet, then you exercise. When you don't sleep, some of those hormones that I was talking about, the one that keeps you full and the one that keeps you hungry, go the opposite way when we're not sleeping. And we have more desire to eat and to eat more, we'll call it high carbohydrate foods when we're not sleeping. And so right now, the best recommendations is everyone should get at least 7 hours, if not 8 hours of restorative sleep each night. 7 is acceptable, 8 is perfect, but it's really hard, I think, in the world we currently live in to get 8 on a regular basis. And so I'll accept 7 in everybody. We know people who sleep less than 7 hours way more. People sleep more than 7 hours way less. And as soon as you get down under about 5.5 hours, the metabolism is slowing significantly, as much as 400 calories a day. And so when you are trying to diet and exercise and do the things that you want to do to lose weight, if your metabolism is really slowing by 400 or more calories a day, it makes it really hard to see progress in what you're doing.
Wow, terrific. So let's wrap it up, okay? Give your final tidbits of what you think my people should know before we conclude.
If you've struggled with your weight, it's time to consider seeing a physician. Dr. Pinsky has adopted the Your Better Self method, which we've put in development since 2006. It is a comprehensive plan that takes into account the 4 pillars of the 4 legs of the chair to be most successful for most people. And then once you decide you're going to do it, you have to work the system. The first recommendation may work for you and you may sail great through it. And if it doesn't, that's what Dr. Pinsky has been taught to do, which is modify your program to make it work for you. Much better than any of the programs you can do on your own. By the time, again, that you've struggled with your weight and maybe it's led to diabetes or sleep apnea or knee pain or any of those things, it's time to consider this. It's more than time to consider this, that this is a chronic medical condition. And for that, we see physicians.
All right. Listen, Craig, I want to thank you so very much for coming on the show. Always so enlightening for me, and you've been a wonderful mentor to me, and the patients are truly appreciative for all you've done. And you and I consult on a regular basis, so I know I'll talk to you soon. So again, thanks so much for coming. Have wonderful holidays, Craig.
Thanks, and same to you.
And so if you feel that this program is right for you, we would love to help you transform your life at Pinsky Medical Weight Loss. Please feel free to contact us at 321-255-2289 or via the web at pinskyweightloss.com or pinskywellness.com. For Dr. Craig Primack, I am Dr. Mark Pinsky. You've been watching The Doctor's Corner.